Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have a Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take. I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again. His third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from 3.
Betting above the rim, only on Sports.
What a way to kick off the second half of this 2024 NFL season. What a way to start our second hour live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. DRS week number 10 kicks off tonight with a dandy in Baltimore, an AFC North rivalry, a divisional duel with huge second half implications between the Ravens and the Bengals. It will be our focus for this opening half hour of hour 2. We'll talk some college football after that with Mark Zinno to get you set for the second Saturday in November. So much football to dive through here in this second hour on this Thursday on the early line.
Absolutely, there is, and it's a great Thursday night football game. It's not one we're worried about who the quarterbacks are going to be. You have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the sport going toe-to-toe tonight in very good conditions and coming off of a game where they played each other already to a 41-38 final. Are we saying we're going to get 70-plus points in this game? Not necessarily, but these 2 teams are going to go down slinging tonight, and I can't wait to watch it play out.
That game was an absolute banger in week number 5. The Bengals trying to resurrect their season after an 0-3 start and their first victory of the year, testing the Ravens that started a 5-game win streak, was in the 5-game win streak for Baltimore as well. The Bengals were a 2.5-point home underdog. Justin Tucker hit a game-tying field goal to force extra time. And then Joe Burrow and the Bengals got the ball first in overtime, unable to take advantage. Bad snap, bad hold on a field goal attempt. Derrick Henry broke off a big run, set up a game-winning field goal out of Justin Tucker as Baltimore emerged victorious 41-38. The Bengals barely missing out on a cover as that hook as a 2.5-point underdog. But DRS, when Joe Burrow has been an underdog of at least a field goal or greater in his NFL career, he has been prolific covering numbers. And that's what we will see tonight. 6.5-point spread in favor of the flock. They have won 6 of their last 7 after a winless 0-2 start to this year. The Bengals, we said, 0-3 to begin this season. A large hole to try to crawl out of to maybe, just maybe, see the postseason. They have won 4 of their last 6. It's a 6.5-point number in favor of the Ravens at home. Short week, Thursday night football game, divisional duel. It makes sense to see the home team laying a good amount of points. Total at 52.5. DRS, where do you start your breakdown for this marquee matchup to begin the second half of the year between the Ravens and the Bengals?
Same way Kansas City and Tampa Bay. I didn't think there was any way, shape, or form that Kansas City would lose that game. Now, was it close? Yes, but they didn't lose that game. I have that same type of notion tonight. Right around a touchdown spread, they should be able to win and cover this game. And you did bring up a good point, trying to resurrect your season for Cincinnati, Ben, after losing the first 3 games on your schedule. And yes, hey, look, they're 4-2 in their last 6. The 4 wins, Panthers, Giants, Browns, and Raiders, the dregs of the NFL. The losses in between there. The Ravens, very good football team, and the Philadelphia Eagles, a very good football team. Now, for the I said it multiple times. I wasn't high on Cincinnati coming into the season, but sometimes, I sort of box myself in by saying there's no way that Cincinnati can get to the playoffs. Then I take a look at the teams that Cincinnati is surrounding, like those teams stink too. So yes, there is a pathway, but I'm going to tell you right now, the next 3 games for the Bengals are absolutely pivotal. You take a look at the Ravens game on the road. You take a look at the Chargers game on the road. You take a look at the Steelers game at home. They have to go 1-2. Again, they're under 500. I'm telling you, there's still a chance for them if they go 1-2 in their next 2 games. You just can't lose all 3. I don't think they're winning tonight. I love the Chargers. I'm not sure they can win there. Maybe it's the Steelers December 1st once they get back home. But keep in mind, if you're playing on a Thursday night football game, you get that mini bye built in before you have to go up against the Chargers. They must go 1-2. And I don't think one of those wins is coming tonight, though, to be honest.
Yeah, DRS, it is going to be a difficult spot, but it's a 6.5-point spread in a divisional game. I mentioned how good Joey B has been as an underdog of a field goal or more in his NFL career. 16-3 ATS. They have been an underdog of more than 3 points once this year, week number 2 in Kansas City. That game, of course, decided by just a single point. KC did emerge with a home victory, 26-25. In fact, the Bengals have done most of their damage this year away from Cincy. They are 3-1 straight up away from home and a perfect 4-0 against the spread on the road. Joe Burrow, 16-3 against the spread as an underdog of 3 points or more. A dog twice this year for the Bengals, 1-1 ATS. Over in both and barely missing out on the cover of that game, of course, against the Flock in week number 5. Donnie, it is interesting looking at these 2 teams, and it's a short week Thursday night football game that starts the second half. Of course, the significance of this game will make it not feel like a short week Thursday night game to start week number 10, but it still is based on the logistics and the scheduling of where this game, and when, I should say, it takes place. The Ravens have gone over in 8 of 9 games this year. In fact, the Ravens have been an underdog of 5 points or more 4 times this season, 2-2 straight up and against the spread, and they have gone over in all of those 4 games. 52.5 for a short week Thursday night football game to begin week number 10. That is the total. What do you expect in terms of offense because of it?
Lamar the star. That's what you expect. He's been absolutely on fire this year, maybe headed towards a 3rd regular season MVP in the NFL. And the one thing you know about Joe Burrow, it doesn't matter who he's with, he's going to be able to complete passes and push it up. It's just a matter of that electric front 7 for the Baltimore Ravens. If they continue to get home, it's certainly going to make that a lot tougher on Joe Burrow. But also keep in mind, last game they played, Jamar Chase did have 10 catches for $193 and 2 scores. But the guy that's not going to be here tonight, T. Higgins, 9 for 83 and 2 scores in that football game as well. And if I'm correct here, I want to say 2 out of the past 3 games, T. Higgins has had multiple touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens, not playing tonight. And I don't even know if we're going to activate it, because last week was interesting to me. As you know, I loved over 1.5 touchdown passes for Joe Burrow, because I'm like, you know what? Burton's going to be able to step into that mold. That guy was inactive Sunday, not because of injury, because he doesn't even show up to practice anymore. So it's like, man, how many weapons do we have? Like, I like Gesicki tonight, and I think he has a chance to do some good things. But, boy, it's just going to be Burrow and Chase against the entire Ravens team. I don't know how that's going to hold up. At least when you had Higgins, it's like, boy, we can really get after this. We just need to stop on defense or 2 because those 2 guys are there. Is it just going to be Chase tonight? That's going to be a tough hill to climb.
The Ravens have not been
So there we go. Look, too much electricity this morning on a game for Thursday night. But yes, just getting back to the original point here, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, formidable on the outside. And that is the way that you attack the Baltimore Ravens, who tried to add Tre'Davious White here to give a little bit of a background at this point so we can say, you know what? This defense can hold up on the back end. But we are expecting points, Ben. And from the main aspect of it, we're talking about November the 7th. This is supposed to be cold weather and windy conditions where we're getting 62 degrees at kickoff tonight. Why aren't we getting fireworks? Do I take it the 52.5 to the over? I don't think I'm going to do that on a straight wager, but I'm going to play props as if we're getting a good amount of points tonight.
DRS, I don't know if I would have the cojones to go under, right? Just to be like, oh, it's too many points. Maybe it's not worth a bet on the over because it feels too lofty, but an under not necessarily feeling like the right side. Joe Burrow has thrown 5 touchdown passes in a game twice this year. Last week, of course, against the Raiders, thrown for more than 250, had 392 yards in 5 passing touchdowns in week number 5. Against the Ravens. And the flock is the worst secondary in the NFL, allowing 281 yards per game. DRS, can we also go from Dr. Donnie to Fashion Police Donnie on the other side? Purple Rising, the alternates tonight for the flock. We'll talk about it next as we continue Thursday Night Football.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Don?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Now, before we give you the actual X's and O's to continue our breakdown, how the props look and will dictate the outcome for Thursday Night Football, I don't know if we have actual clip reel photos or any B-roll images. Oh, we do. Hey-o. All right. We already showed you Dr. Donnie earlier in the show. Now it's time for Fashion Police, Donnie. How does this affect his handicap for Thursday night football? The Purple Rising uniforms, the Ravens will debut tonight. New matte purple helmet, DRS, decked out in fully purple tonight as well. It's the first time the Ravens, in their history as a franchise, have used a non-primary black helmet as what they will display on the field. Does it help your chances of the Ravens winning and covering tonight? Might it hinder based on these uniforms? Fashion Police, right side.
No, it looks pretty clean. It looks pretty clean right there. Now, that's only like the practice uniform version of it, so I would like to see how, I guess it's purple pants that they're going to wear as well. I just wish to see the logo on the helmet. Just give me the regular Ravens logo on the helmet. I think that would be better than that Ravens logo right there. But I'm not, there's no, as the Fashion Police here, we're not arresting this uniform right here. I think it's all right. No. You can get a pass in. You know what I mean? We're good. We're good to go.
Word on the street is the Giants are wearing the Century Red uniforms over in Germany this weekend. We shall see. But listen, I love the Purple Rising. I think it looks great. I think when Clemson shows the purple uniforms, I think when LSU, don't even get Joe Lisi started on the purple uniforms of the Bayou Bengals, perhaps this Saturday night at home in Baton Rouge. I like the Purple Rising uniforms of the Baltimore Ravens. All right, DRS, let's continue the prop breakdown. We talked about Joe Burrow, 5 passing touchdowns last week, 5 passing touchdowns and nearly 400 yards in the first game against the Flock this year. They have the worst passing defense, giving up 281 yards per game throughout this season. Lamar Jackson is more than likely not going to win a second consecutive MVP award or his third in the last 6 seasons, but he is certainly playing to an MVP caliber level. If the Ravens are going to win this game comfortably tonight, DRS, against the Bengals defense that has been a mixed bag this year, what do the Ravens need out of Lamar?
No, it's just being average. Like, average Lamar has been MVP Lamar, which is crazy. It's like, hey, we need him to throw 40 times and 400 yards. Like, no, you need him to throw 27 times for like 265 and 3 touchdowns, which feels like he does that on a week-to-week basis. Here's the problem. And again, it's not actually a problem because he's an MVP and he's really good. You saw last week. Word coming out, a little bit banged up, and you say, okay, what does Lamar usually give you on the ground? 35, 45, 55, 65 yards here. Didn't run much last month, and not for a lot of yards. So if you are looking to attack Lamar Jackson once again on the ground, which he can do, I'm sort of staying away from those rushing numbers. But you see the passing numbers, they're not hindered at all. And hear me out on this.
At all.
The wide receiving core, Zay Flowers is their number one. Is he a true number one like a Devontae Adams? No, not necessarily. He's just a lead dog in that clubhouse. But now you have multiple guys that can get open. You don't have Likely back as a set tonight, but you still have Mark Andrews coming back as if he's getting back to pre-injury Mark Andrews. There's no reason to believe that Lamar Jackson cannot throw for more than 2 touchdowns in this game, listed at a minus 128 price right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Because if you're looking at the MO, the one thing we know, Cincinnati's defense is bad. The Ravens' offense is really good, and it's centered around Lamar Jackson. So if you say, Donnie, do you like over 232 in his passing prop? I would be a fool to say no. But if you said of his passing props, passing yards or passing touchdowns, which way are you going? It's the passing touchdowns for me for Lamar Jackson, Ben.
In DRS, we cruise to the over for Mahomes of 1.5 on Monday night. I think both of these quarterbacks go over those passing touchdown props. And when you look at what Lamar Jackson did in the initial game this year against Cincinnati, of course, Burrow, nearly 405 touchdowns, albeit a costly interception late. Lamar Jackson's performance, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, 55 yards on the ground. DRS, Lamar Jackson only 3 carries, to your point, for just 4 yards last week. The first time this year in any of the 9 games that Lamar Jackson has played that he had less than 40 rushing yards. And last week they didn't need it. They were blowing out the Broncos. They won 41-10. He was 16 of 19 for 280 in 3 touchdowns. As many touchdown passes as incompletions. In fact, dating back to that Bengals game in week number 5, Lamar has gone for 280-plus in 5 consecutive games. No reason to think that slows down tonight. And, Donnie, when the Ravens have won this year, Derrick Henry has had at least 92 yards on the ground. He was less than that in loss to the Browns 2 weeks ago, back over the century mark last week against Denver. The Bengals have had running back issues this year, as Zach Moss is now injured. They made the deadline deal to get Juice Herbert from Chicago in the second-year pro out of Illinois. Chase Brown has kind of emerged as that lead back. Also really great in what he does in the receiving game as well for Joe Burrow and that Bengals offense. Compare those running backs for us, if you will, for Thursday night.
I love this. This is why we like these games. Are we worried about the two quarterbacks, Ben? No. Are we worried about the two technical number ones for each team, which is Jamar Chase and Zay Flowers? No, they're going to get theirs. And the running backs here, there's no committee by running back on either one of these teams. You have a stone-cold stunner out there in Derrick Henry that you know is going to be rushing for 75-plus yards and definitely is going to hit pay dirt. And they say, hey, what's that, plus 120, plus 130? And you're like, no, you are paying through the nose to get a touchdown prop here out of Derrick Henry. You see that at a minus 270 price. But now you see Chase Brown with no Moss. He is their lead dog. Backfield on third downs and first downs and second downs. He's going to get the goal line carries and the opportunities on third down to catch the ball. So when I look at this game, it's almost like the perfect storm on offense. Yes, I understand it's not automatic when you just take good guys and you expect them to have great nights. But we're not worried about man, I really missed out. And again, it could happen. Rashad Bateman, 8 catches for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. No, we don't think that's going to happen. That's Zay Flowers. Or Yoshivash. Wow, 7 catches for 113 yards. Jamar Chase didn't get anything. No, we expect Jamar Chase to get those. So from a receiving perspective and a running back perspective, I love this game. And yes, I do think if you have a parlay card tonight, Derrick Henry, absolutely anytime touchdown minus 270, he can add some value to it.
He has scored 11 touchdowns this year. He has scored in all but one game this year for Baltimore. He has scored multiple touchdowns in 3 of the 8 games he has found pay dirt. DRS, and it's pretty simple for the Ravens. It should not be a surprise. It's one of the reasons they added Derrick Henry. When they're great on the ground, they are often unstoppable. Derrick Henry has gone over 89.5 rushing yards, his prop tonight against the Bengals, in all 6 wins this year for the flock. Again, it seems rather simple. It is. The receivers in the outlook. That's next.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at a Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those 2 games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. What is he, a 6th-year player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from 3.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So let's look at the receivers for Thursday Night Football. As Donnie has said, the number 1 wideouts are there. Jamar Chase as a much higher prop as the one for Cincy, 80.5, than evens out Zay Flowers on the other side for the Ravens, 59 and Mike Gesicki, huge last week, $120 in terms of his receiving yardage output, 2 of the 5 touchdown tosses that Joe Burrow threw. Mark Andrews, Donnie, an intriguing component of tonight, if I do say so myself, because Cincinnati, of course, was trying to make its comeback once again last year after starting 0-2. They were playing much better football entering this Thursday night game. Short week, week 11, not week 10, but week 11 against Baltimore. And, of course, that was the end of the season for both Mark Andrews and Joe Burrow. 42.5 is the number on Andrews. How do you handicap the receivers who will be catching all the passes tonight, Donnie, on a night where we expect both quarterbacks to go off and to probably go over their passing touchdown props?
Again, it's hard to find a game, which is why I was so excited to start the week when we saw this game coming up on Thursday night, because it's everything that I like to see. Again, dynamic quarterbacks, very good running backs, very good weather conditions, 2 defenses that can be had on the back end. But are we playing up to, let's just say, the value to some of these players? Because if you say, Donnie, who should dominate tonight? You know it's going to be, Ben, the usual suspects out here. Jamar Chase, but where's he sitting? Around 80 in this game. So you're going to have an average to really good night just to cash that. If you take a look at Zay Flowers, 60.5, average to good night to cash that. Or are we starting to slide it down and say, if we're going to get, let's just call it 55 points in this game to come around that total, you look at Rashad Bateman, 28.5. It's not that much. Deontay Johnson, who wants to get, you know what? It doesn't have to be the lead dog, but you want to ingratiate him into that offense. You're going to leave him left on the sideline with 1 catch for 6 yards, or do you want to get him a couple touches early to say, you know what? Welcome to the team. That's only 20.5. You switch it over to the other side. Mike Gesicki, who you know, but I was high on last week, took him on Pro Football Today, plus 350 to score a touchdown, ends up with 2 touchdowns, 5 catches, and 100 yards. But his numbers, Ben, last week when I liked him here saying, I think he could do some damage, 26.5, 27.5. He's almost double that tonight at 49.5. So you're not sneaking up on anybody. But Eric All Jr., that backup tight end, is no longer there with the ACL injury. So it is going to be all Gesicki. And you can see over the past couple weeks, which includes the Eagles game, that you're finally getting comfortable with Joe Burrow and Mike Gesicki. I mean, the dude's like 6'9" out there. You got to see him as a target. And if you're losing, the passing game is going to have to go through him for somewhat. But Mark Andrews, 42.5. For me, I like both of the tight ends. If you say, Donnie, do you like Gesicki over 50 yards or Mark Andrews over that 42.5? I probably go Mark Andrews, to be honest. I like the fact that Likely is out, so you're probably expecting 6 to 7 targets maybe coming Andrews' way. That should get it here. But from a touchdown perspective, like Zay Flowers should score a touchdown tonight. Same thing with Jamar Chase, should score a touchdown tonight. Because if I think both of the quarterbacks have chances to go over 1.5 touchdown passes, somebody's catching that. And it's not going to be running backs. It's going to be tight ends, and it's going to be wide receivers. So give me that action there.
Deontay Johnson in his Baltimore debut, 20.5. Again, what exactly is the familiarity like with the scheme with Lamar Jackson at this stage? That number probably will be on the uptick the next few weeks. Rashad Bateman, over 28.5. DRS, I mentioned that Lamar has thrown for 280-plus in 5 consecutive games, dating back to the opening matchup this year against the Bengals. In that first game in Cincy, 8 targets, only 4 grabs for Bateman, but 58 yards and a touchdown. Fully healthy this year, the former number 1 overall pick, or not overall pick, first-round selection out of Minnesota, has been so much better this season. I look at that number and think it is still a slight discount. Mark Andrews has scored 4 touchdowns this year, all 4 in the 3 games before last week for Baltimore in that rout of Denver. And again, DRS, this is a divisional duel. This is an AFC North rivalry, and it's a game, albeit on a short week, that has huge implications. The Ravens, minus 220 to win this division. Baltimore enters the second half 6-3, but the Steelers actually have the better record at 6-2.
Yeah, and look, this is going to go a long way, not necessarily for me, because let's just say Cincinnati goes on the road here and ends up beating the Baltimore Ravens. I still think the Ravens have a legitimate chance to win a world championship. Yes, I know they've lost some crazy games this year to the Vegas Raiders and also the Cleveland Browns, but their top end is better than a lot of other teams' top end. But this is a game where if Cincinnati wins, their numbers drastically are on the rise here, cutting some of those prices maybe even in half at this point, because the expectations is they're not supposed to win tonight. Getting T. Higgins back next week, hopefully, after this mini bye, maybe you should start buying back on the Bengals, but I'm not going to do that. I didn't like them before the season. I don't like them now, and certainly I don't think they win tonight. But if they do, that's the mover here, Ben, not necessarily the Ravens.
The playoff price is minus 114. We'll talk more about that later on. My mistake, Deontay Johnson did play last week.
Yeah.
Didn't really do all that much for Baltimore. His second game, though, with the Ravens. College football next.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. I mean, what is he, a sixth-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from three.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The second Saturday in November, the first weekend following the first college football playoff rankings of this season. It gets even more significant each and every week leading up to that last Saturday of the college football campaign and Selection Sunday, the opening weekend of December. So to help you get set for week number 11 of this college football season, Mark Zinno is here live on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. Zinno, as always, we appreciate the time. We will start in the Southeastern Conference. We'll look at the rest of the country in college football in week 11 after. We're glad to have you here on this Thursday.
Gentlemen, great to be with you as always. We are at kind of elimination time for some of these teams, right? We've seen the first college football playoff rankings come out, and now it gets serious as every team tries to vie for positioning here, and now the ever-boring top 12.
And Mark Zinno, as you said, that's part of what still makes the college football playoff, despite expansion, incredibly interesting. Some that were anti-expansion, tough week to be those guys, but some that were anti-expansion said that regular season games would not matter anymore. Law. Regular season games often work as de facto college football playoff games. Well, welcome to Week 11 Saturday in the SEC. He's Mark Zinno. He's also the mouth in the South, and now it's time for his SEC picks. Because on cue, Mark Zinno, welcome to Saturday night in Death Valley. It's number 11, Alabama. It's number 14, LSU. It's a top 15 tilt in Death Valley. Under the lights at night, we know how difficult a venue is that is for the opposition inside Tiger Stadium. And Mark, this is your de facto elimination game. Both of these teams already multiple losses this season. And Alabama is a 2.5-point road favorite in Baton Rouge. We did see LSU as a slight home underdog previously this year against Ole Miss win that game outright. It is a de facto elimination game. So Zinno, who keeps their season afloat after Saturday night?
The LSU Tigers. I mean, it's a Saturday night in Baton Rouge. What could go wrong down in Death Valley for the Alabama Crimson Tide of all things? I mean, you also have LSU coming off a loss last time out to Texas A&M, so they probably are a little bit hungry for a win here and need it. I don't 100% know that this is an elimination game. It feels like it, but there's still a path for both of these teams, the loser of this, to actually still get in the college football playoff when it's all said and done. We've seen the committee do quirkier things, to say the least, at certain times. But I don't know that Alabama, without a run game to speak of, without any level of consistency, is going to be able to handle LSU. These are the spots here where I kind of trust Brian Kelly as a game caller and a play caller more than I would Kalen DeBoer at this point in time. And we've seen Alabama struggle offensively. So there's a lot going up against. And the last time Nick Saban went down here 2 years ago, didn't work out well for the Tide then. I don't think it works out well for the Tide now.
Yeah, it should be a good game down there, and you're right about it. So hard to beat LSU at night. But also, Mark, each team has had 2 losses. Can you imagine if this was like 2 or 3 years ago? Tickets would be going for $1. Nobody would be watching this game on TV because nobody would care, and they're both out of it now. Huge stuff. And as you said, I love it because I sort of misconstrued this season as well, where it's like you can afford 1 loss. 2 probably doesn't get you in. 3rd loss still might be able to get you in. College football back in a big way, Mark, which includes in the Grove in the SEC, Georgia and Ole Miss. The look-ahead line, 6.5-point favorite here for Georgia. We now see it as 2.5 across the board and a total 54.5. Georgia, Ole Miss. Come on now, 3:30 SEC.
I mean, this is the Lane Kiffin game that equates to the James Franklin game that he can't win in the Big Ten, right?
Sure.
Like, this is the game here for Lane Kiffin to sort of put a feather in his cap and go, look, we Ole Miss has really arrived. Look, and Kiffin has done amazing things down in Oxford, right? This program is at heights it hasn't been pretty much ever. And they are a consistent perennial powerhouse, and they're here. They're going to have to get past a Georgia team that has a bunch of warts. I mean, and which Georgia team is really going to show up? The one with Carson Beck is a turnover machine, which he's been. Joe, by the way, Carson Beck, not an NFL quarterback, guys. This just in. From this standpoint here, Georgia has to figure out a way to be able to run the ball at some consistency, keep the ball in their hands, and then slow down what may be one of the better quarterbacks in the country in Jackson Dart. When you look at it, and, we had this conversation last night, a bunch of us, about if I needed an SEC quarterback to win one game, Jackson Dart might be the guy you'd pick at this point in time. I mean, honestly, he may be the most reliable guy out there, and it's going to be on him really to steal this game here for the Rebs. But the key is, guys, Ole Miss has to play with a lead. They have to keep Georgia on their heels. If they get down, Georgia's defense will lock down and not give it up, similar to what we saw against Texas, where Georgia was able to control the game and choke them out and really, really kind of send the pass rush and make life heck for Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning for the short time that he was under center. But long story short here, guys, Ole Miss, if they can get out to an early lead here, I think they can hang on in this one.
It will be really interesting, Mark, and you bring up a great point about Lane Kiffin in these significant spots as an underdog in Oxford. 14 times with Lane Kiffin. They are 8-6 against the spread. 6 of those 8 covers, an outright victory. Of course, when you look back on what Ole Miss has done with ranked opponents seeing Lane Kiffin, they are just 7-9 straight up. Lane, in his college coaching career, 10-20, a huge spot. Meanwhile, against ranked foes with Kirby Smart since the start of 2021, Georgia is 18-3. In fact, Georgia, in its last 56 football games since the middle portion of 2020, is 53-3 rather, with all 3 of those losses against the same team, and that is Alabama. Zinno, elsewhere on the SEC slate on Saturday, an interesting one starts at noon in Austin, Texas, of course, looking to find its way back. A loss to Georgia, a non-cover on the road in Nashville against Vanderbilt. Now, a 3-touchdown favorite against Florida. On the injury report, DJ Lagway listed as questionable. It seemed to be a severe hamstring injury last week in Jacksonville against UGA. They're not ruling him out this week. How will that impact the spread by the time we reach Saturday afternoon?
Well, it'll get right past 24 if Lagway is out. But the thing here is this. Even if Lagway is in and 100% healthy, you have to ask yourself, that was Florida's Super Bowl last week and the game that may have saved Billy Napier's job at least for another week or longer by being so competitive and having a lead and having a chance to take out Georgia, right? How much do they have left in the emotional tank to get back up for a second week in a row, playing away from the swamp for the second week in a row, to go down to Austin and try and win that game? I don't know that it's there. I'm not comfortable laying 21.5 in an SEC game pretty much ever. But this looks like a spot where, it's really simple. You know how I always cut games in half here, Ben and Donnie. Like, if Florida's not within 14 and at half, they're going to have no shot. So I would look, if I'm going to take Florida, I'd play them in the first half, but I'd probably lean Texas here in the first half and the game to cover it.
Mississippi State, Mark, here, struggling in the SEC, no doubt about it, 0-5. They're going up against Tennessee. This is a heavy line, minus 23.5 points, but we have that proverbial, hey, Tennessee, who you got next week after an easy game this week? Oh, Georgia's on deck. How do we play this one out?
Okay. This number, I had to do a triple take to stare at the screen to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing. What world does Tennessee deserve to be laying over 3 touchdowns? Has anybody watched them play football the last month? That's insane. There is no way you're laying this kind of number. Tennessee hasn't covered a spread this big since they played Kent State back in week 3. Stop. We have too much of a sample size at this point in time to believe that Tennessee can cover this number. Mississippi State, for all their flaws, has been scrappy. They've been in games. They hung around with Georgia. They're not, necessarily a team that is as bad as we thought they were, at least at the outset. Sure, they've been beaten by a couple of teams, but still, come on. Tennessee cannot be laying 24 points against anybody right now.
More than likely, the Bulldogs are not going to win this game on Rocky Top. But Mississippi State has been a 3-touchdown dog already 3 times this year in SEC play. They are perfect, 3-0 ATS. Meanwhile, Tennessee has been a double-digit favorite 3 times in SEC play. 0-3 against the number. It's all the cowbell on Saturday. More with Mark Zinno next.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those 2 games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. What is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from 3.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
In Bloomington, they used to joke about 9-win Indiana, a program that had only ever won 9 games a few times in program history, and certainly in the 136 years prior to this one, had never started a perfect 9-0. Well, welcome Kurt Signetti. The Hoosiers are 9-0 for the first time ever in Indiana football program history. And the Hoosiers have covered in 8 of those 9 wins. And Indiana is favored to beat Michigan in a football game for the first time since 1968. And not just a 3.5-point favorite or laying a touchdown at home. It's 2 touchdowns in favor of the Hoosiers, trying to win 10 games in a season for the first time ever. Zinno, will Indiana do so and potentially cover comfortably against the Maize and Blue, the reigning national champs, on Saturday in Bloomington?
Yeah. I mean, look, as somebody who stepped in front of Indiana at one point this season and got my tail handed to me, they're a wagon, and it's really hard to deny the numbers that they've put up and what they have done so far. You also have to acknowledge they haven't had a step up in class that matters. And Michigan is not, correct. This year's Michigan is not a step up in class that matters. Michigan has no offense. So the biggest problem here is that while Michigan's defense may be able to slow down Indiana and only keep them to, let's call it 27, much similar to what we saw Washington be able to do earlier this year against them, I don't know that you are going to get much out of Michigan's offense enough to keep this thing close. So the Indiana defense also has requited themselves really well. Like, we keep talking about the offense and Rourke and what he's done, but this is still a defense that has done really, really well and has managed to hold up their end of the bargain here. So I don't see a path for Michigan here other than Indiana playing poorly and choking on their home turf. It's Indiana or pass. I mean, I'm not going to get involved, but at this point, Indiana it looks like the right side.
Yeah, putting the Who in Hoosiers here with that actual schedule that they have. Hoosiers have they played? Nobody. All right, let's keep moving forward here. BYU, Utah, the battle out there. And by the way, I don't know if this is Army-Navy, Mark. 40.5, the listed total in this game, and a favorite towards BYU, unbeaten BYU at -3.5. What's going on out there? How is this?
I mean, look at this spot for Utah, right?
Sheesh.
Like, I can't remember the last time Kyle Whittingham didn't win 9 games in a year. I know it's happened, within the last 10, 12 years, but it's not off the top of my head. It seems like it's a fait accompli. And guess what? Kyle Whittingham ain't winning 9 games this year. So that's number one. The Utes have lost 4 in a row, and they are in a desperation spot here against the BYU team that has had some close calls and some near misses, but also some pretty convincing wins. The Holy War here will be decided early on, and Utah's defense will let us know if they're up to this game and if they're primed for this game. But it all boils down to who's playing quarterback for Utah. And it's been the mess that has been the last season and a half for the Utes and why things have gone off the rails. They've just had no consistency at that position, and it's really hard to back them from an offensive standpoint. That said, it's going to take a lot of my friends to talk me off of betting Utah here. Like, I really going to need Saturday some really good coaxing and everything else to not get to the window on Utah, just given the spot, the situation, the rivalry, and everything else.
Yeah, listen, you bring up a good point. It is the Holy War. It's the first time they've played the Holy War as conference mates since 2012, the 102nd Holy War between BYU and Utah. BYU, of course, one of 5 remaining undefeated teams in college football. They have also covered in all but one of their games this year. Mark Zinno, next up, we stay in the Big 12. For a true conference contender, and maybe a college football playoff contender, that's 20th ranked Colorado. They head to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech as a slight 3.5-point favorite. The Red Raiders, perfect, 3-0 against the number as an underdog this year. Just pulled off a huge upset last week on the road in Jack Trice against Iowa State. Can the Red Raiders be upset-minded once again in this Big 12 battle?
Yeah, I would love this game a lot more if Texas Tech didn't just roll into Ames, Iowa last week and beat the Hawkeyes, like something that a lot of teams don't really do all that often at this point in the year. But what world do we get into where we have Colorado as a road favorite They were a road underdog at Nebraska. They were a road underdog at UCF, and they were a road underdog to Arizona, who turns out to be horrible this year. And now they're laying 3.5 on the road to Texas Tech. Like, come on. I know they're off a bye, but, how much did Deion really do during the bye here is the real question. He's worried about Shedeur and the Raiders losing so he can get his son into Las Vegas to be the starting quarterback there. Like, I'm just not in a world where I'm laying points on the road with the Colorado Buffaloes in that defense. Just period. Texas Tech here is the right side.
Let's see how many touchdowns Hunter can rack up in this one, trying to win a Heisman. Why? Because the front runners right now, Travis Hunter and also Miami, Florida, the Hurricanes, and more, going to take on Georgia Tech in Atlanta this weekend. That total now sitting at 63.5 points and a double-digit favorite for the Miami Hurricanes. Mark, we know Miami can move the football on offense, but other teams can move the football on their defense. What gives this weekend?
The big question here is the status of Haynes King for Georgia Tech. Is he back? Is he playing? That's, if he is, then I would go the over. Absolutely, because he's the key to their offense here. Look, Benny will tell you the long list of Brent Key underdog stats here and how well he's performed. Correct. That said, this may be a different level of team that he's performing against in this spot was earlier in the year. Again, Georgia Tech was a big dog earlier in the year. The Louisville, they didn't get it done there. It was a late sort of punt block touchdown helped the Cardinals cover that game. But this is a whole different world here with Miami. I don't know that Georgia Tech has the horses in the barn to keep up here. I'd love to think that they can, but if Haynes King isn't going, I don't think you could play Georgia Tech in any way.
7-3 against the spread as a double-digit dog after the victory against Florida State in Ireland to open the year, but they now have not covered in their last 3 games as an underdog, including their last 2 as a double-digit dog, including 2 weekends ago against Virginia Tech, getting 11 points from the Hokies. Mark Zinno is here for another segment to look at Thursday Night Football and a huge matchup in Baltimore. That's on the other side of the break. Come back and join us on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at the Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those 2 games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. What is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
What can you say about Hunter? Besides the fact that he's got to be healthy. Remember, he had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him at, once he got to the end of the season. 17.9, 10.9 last year, and he should be, as usual, a double-double machine. He's got to be able to continue to show the ability to try and shoot the ball from 3.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Football with Mark Zinno live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. From the college ranks back to the start of week number 10 of this NFL season in 2024, Zinno gives his thoughts on a Thursday night banger in the Charm City between the Ravens and the Bengals. Zinno, Baltimore, 6.5-point favorite against Cincinnati. Crucial AFC North rivalry, a game with significance now in the second half. Total stands at 52 and a hook, a very lofty number for a short week Thursday night football game. How are you seeing these numbers for the Thursday night football game between the Ravens and the Bengals?
Well, one, highest total we've seen on Thursday Night Football in 3 years. That should tell you something here about these two teams. But I think it's well documented. I pretty much despise Zach Taylor as a coach, and beyond Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. They're flat out awful. That said, I'm backing the Bengals tonight plus the points here on Thursday Night Football. Look, the Bengals are a desperate team right now. They need a win. They need a division win. And in order to save their season, they have to put, stack wins on top of one another and put their best foot forward. Not only that, seven of the last 8 contests between these two teams, guys, have ended one of two ways: in a one-score game or a Bengals blowout. So the Bengals have always handled the Ravens well and played them tough, and I expect them to do it here. The Bengals should have won that first matchup if the aforementioned Zach Taylor wasn't a putz and a horrible coach and a disgusting play caller. They would have won that game. But all those things I just said about him are true, and that's the variance that I'm bringing in here, betting the Cincinnati Bengals because, well, he's an idiot and should be fired for my accounts by all. He's just not a very good coach, period. Like I have more data to speak of than you can imagine on Zach Taylor. That said, again, too much here for me to lay in a division game on a Thursday night on a short week, which favors the lower scoring game, favors the Bengals here, so I'll take the points.
Some low-hanging fruit in this game, Mark. How do you approach it? Like Derrick Henry's prop here at the FanDuel Sportsbook for rushing is 89.5 yards. His touchdown prop just dropped, to minus 260. How do you approach Derrick Henry tonight? Is this auto bet all of the time?
Well, Bengals defense is bad. So, yeah, it feels that way. I would be more inclined to take at probably a better number the longest rush for Derrick Henry. If he gets something in the 12, 15-yard range, something under 20, he's probably likely to have one of those if he's going to hit that number. But I'll give you one more guy to target in props, who's had even better success. That's Jamar Chase against the Ravens defense. In his career, he's averaged just under 100 yards a game receiving. Last time out, he had 10 receptions for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Ravens. Like, hey, we know the Ravens can stop the run. But does anybody take note that the Ravens have the worst pass defense in the NFL? And I don't want to hear, it's because they lead, it's all garbage time. No, BS. It's a bad pass defense and has been all year long. You can throw on this team. Part of the reason also why I like the Bengals, because Jamar Chase is going to have a huge night against them. Jamar Chase, anytime touchdown, feels pretty tasty, if you ask me. Going into this thing, I know that number 80.5 is really, really high. But for the most part, Chase should have a big night against a bad Ravens defense.
And Joe Burrow did throw 5 touchdowns, not just last week. Chase actually did not have a receiving score last week. Of course, he had a few against the Ravens the first time these two teams squared off in week number 5. Zinno, it's always interesting to have a divisional duel as a short week Thursday night football game because the implications are higher. For Cincinnati, you mentioned it. It is a must-win game. After starting 0-3, there is limited margin of error always, even against one of the best teams in your division and in the conference. Minus 114 is Cincy's price right now to see the playoffs at the end of tonight, at the end of this season. Do you believe the Bengals will be a playoff team in the AFC?
No. I told you guys that from the beginning of the year that they weren't a playoff team. I told you guys from the beginning of the year that they might finish dead last in this division. And if the Cleveland Browns weren't the Cleveland Browns, guess what? They would be in last place in this division. So this is not a good football team. It won't be a good football team this year. There's too much stacked against them, and they don't have the horses in the barn to compete. So Bengals missed the playoffs. I said that from August.
This game would be very important, of course, for Cincinnati. If they drop it, they are going to be 4-6. However, with that being said, there are still opportunities elsewhere to make up some ground still because of how weak the AFC has been across the board. Quickly, Zinno, before we let you go, final 30 seconds, where do you stack the Ravens in your tier of elite in the AFC?
They're the best team in the AFC right now. They are. I mean, power rankings-wise, the Chiefs' offense is impotent. It's not good. They can't seem to get more than 23, 24 points a game, and the Ravens, and it's just a matter of can the Ravens execute on the defensive side of the ball, and can they do it when it matters in the playoffs?
That we shall see. That is the question, of course, for Lamar Jackson and this Baltimore club. Mark Zinno, we appreciate the time as always. Hour number 3 is up next.